What up? This is Rama Screen, and in the anticipation of Savage State, which arrives on demand and on digital January 29th, I'm here talking with one of the stars of this new film, Kate Moran. How are you, Kate?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good, I am well. Thank you for taking the time. Congratulations on the film. I watched it recently. I am a big fan of Western in general, and this is certainly a unique one, a fascinating one, really, because most of the actors are French. The writer director is French. The characters are French, but the setting of the story is in America, the old Wild West, in the breakout of Civil War. So tell me, Kate, what do you think about this view of the American Old Wild West through the French perspective?
I thought when I read the script, I really thought it was great because it's a new take on a genre of film that is very well known, and I liked this also this aspect of an area of the country during the Civil War that we don't necessarily know about, or that isn't really spoken about very often, which is these certain enclaves that were still kept very much kind of old world, and which is what this family is. They're sort of living in the new world, but very much as though they were still in France, speaking still in French in the house and all of that, and and uh, and I liked that aspect of it, kind of bringing in that history that we know not very much about.
Definitely. It shows a side that at least I had not seen before. So, fun question, did you have to train to ride a horse or shoot a rifle, or were you already skilled at both prior to taking on this role?
No, I definitely am not skilled in shooting a rifle, and I had I mean, I rode horses a few times when I was a kid, but it was definitely not at ease with that at all. And we were lucky enough to have a couple of afternoons with our horses, and they were actually the ones that we worked with in the film. So I got to rehearse with my partner, which was fun. Minos was his name. I had a very beautiful horse.
You know what? I really like your character, Betty. She looks
Me too.
wild. She's somebody you don't want to mess with, but she's got that mesmerizing, mysterious outsider look about her. I think in another life she could be like a pirate or something. Was that how Betty was written on the script? And what were some of the things that you did to shape the appearance and the persona of Betty?
I mean, yeah, the Devi definitely had a really great character already written in the script, and then obviously, kind of whoever, whatever performer takes on the role, sort of adds in their own their own take, and that's sort of what I guess I brought to Betty, was sort of her side that was a bit more menacingly soft. There was
Hmm.
something about her that the thing that I like about this character, and that I kind of liked bringing into it, is the fact that I find nothing more scary than when somebody speaks very quietly.
Hmm.
Yelling and being violent, is a very extroverted way of showing anger or violence, but making people sort of lean in is more menacing, I think. And so I sort of wanted to bring that to Betty, that confidence in how in how sure she was that she could be violent, that she didn't need to yell and show it as much.
Wait, I forgot to ask. I know you've done vampire stuff in the past, but was this your first Western?
It was, yeah.
Ah, excellent. So on that note, is Betty a hero, an anti-hero? Is she a villain, or is she simply misunderstood? What do you think? What's your take on her?
Well, I mean, I think that she's not a villain. Um, I mean, she's for me. What I loved about this character is that she runs outside of the moral compass of this like nice society that these girls come from, with their pretty dresses and their silly little house. But it's not that she doesn't even know that, so it's not like she's against it. it's just not even in her character. You know, she, for me, she's like a wolf, and she runs with a pack of wolves. And why on earth would a wolf would ever want to be in a house? They love to be outside. So there's not anything in her that's sort of vengeful in the way that we would think of that in like moral standards of what like a society knows. Hers are more animal instincts, and that's what I liked about her.
I agree. That's also the impression that I get when I was watching her. I gotta ask this because I'm super curious about it. That scene when you're doing the solo slow dancing by the bonfire. Did you come up
Mm-hmm.
with that move on your own? And what was the meaning of that dance? Or am I reading too much into this?
Well, I mean, that particular part is in David's script. I came up with the movements. I mean, obviously we worked on it together, the two of us, David and I, in the moment on the day. He wanted something that was very, he just sort of, his indication was like sort of slow motion, almost trance like, that
Mm.
kind of divulges basically into an orgy with her band of merry men. And it was sort of because they're sort of inhuman, the gang, because they have these very menacing masks that are quite scary looking. I find these sort of like flower bags over their heads. Like, I mean, it's almost like indicative of the Ku Klux Klan or something. They're very scary, I think.
Mm.
And this is sort of a moment when you sort of see the mysticism also of their gang, that they also, like there's all of this sort of voodoo subplot that
Oh.
runs through it. And for me, this is sort of the moment of their sort of mysticism, animal ritual, that's like mating or something. But because they're sort of subhuman or surreal, they're also not in a typical sex scene or mating dance or something. And so there's something in that, and how she controls that situation, which is the reason that she can control this band, until the moment when her emotions betray her. And then she also sort of, the magic and the spell is broken, and she also loses her group.
Thank you for sharing that. That was a fascinating scene. Very hypnotic, most
Mhm.
definitely. Let me tell you, I would not be able to survive in the old Wild West, not even for one day, because I need my internet. I mean, I cannot live without internet. I cannot survive one day in that particular historical era and in that particular region. But fun hypothetical question for you, Kate: would you be able to survive in the old Wild West? What do you think?
I mean, I'm not much of a camper now, but yeah, I think I could probably make do if I had to.
Yeah, build a
I think
cabin, live off
that
the land.
there's one moment in the film when Esther, the character played by Alice Izaz, they have to throw all of their worldly possessions over the cliff because they can't afford to take everything. And I think I would have kept her book. She threw her book away, and I think that if I could have a really good book with me, then I could probably survive anything.
There you go. And finally, theme wise, what do you think it is that writer director David wanted to convey through this film, Savage State?
Um, I mean, that's a question for him.
Hmm.
I can't speak for him about what he wanted to convey. What I feel when I
Hmm.
see it is that it sort of brings, it's interesting because there's this thing about it. It's a Western genre, but all of the main characters more or less are women that kind of are like taking over and sort of running the show, which is something that we don't see very often in a Western. It's mostly the
Hmm.
cowboys out there doing it. So I think that he brought an interesting take to the idea of the fact that women just as easily as men can be the cowboys in the in the scene. It's not necessarily for me a political act. It's just sort of like, yeah, you're out here braving the elements, and the girls can do it too. But then the other thing that I really love that he conveys in it is this sort of grandiosity of landscape that is, it's much more visual and tactile than plot driven, I find, in a certain way. The aesthetic of the film speaks for itself. The elements, the landscapes, the weather that the obviously the human element confronts to give it its power. I find very important in this film, that visual aesthetic that he conveys.
All right. For my fans at home, everybody go check out Savage State on demand and on digital January 29th. Kate, thank you for talking to me and
Thank
congratulations.
you very much. Thank you.